The White Sox have taken the field in front of a sellout crowd. We take a look at Dusty Baker's starting lineup today, presented by Taco Bell. Juan Pierre leads off in center field. Ronnie Cedeno, the shortstop. Todd Walker today, the designated hitter. Michael Barrett, the catcher, bats cleanup. Jock Jones in right field. And the slumping Aramis Ramirez is at third base, batting sixth. John Mabry to start at first base today. Matt Burton in left field. And Jerry Hairston Jr. is at second base. And on the mound for the White Sox, 29-year-old six-game winner, Freddie Garcia, 14-game winner a season ago. He delivers strike one, and we are underway in Chicago. Juan Pierre off to a very slow start with his new team, hitting just .229.
And taking a look at Freddie Garcia on the season, that 6-1 record, that gets it done. He is actually on a nice winning streak. And one of the main reasons he's been on a winning streak is he's slow and steady. Freddie works at his own pace, without a doubt. He never has had problems with lefties this year. No exception. He's handling them very well. They're only hitting .207. And oh, happy days. 17-4 since '04 in day games.
Bounces up there, 2-2 on Juan Pierre. We mentioned that Garcia last season, a 14-game winner, his first full year with the Chicago White Sox. And boy, was he lights out like the rest of this Chicago starting rotation in the postseason. A 3-0 record with an ERA barely over 2. Grounded to the right side. Konerko, the feed to Garcia, foot race to the bag, and the Cubs is out at first. Take a look at the White Sox defensively. The rookie Brian Anderson, their everyday center fielder, not hitting yet. They believe he will. Flanked by Pasetnik and Jermaine Dye, last season's World Series MVP. Creedy, Uribe, Iguchi, and Konerko along the infield. And A.J. Brzezinski yesterday in the opening inning, committing his first error since midway through last season.
Yeah, A.J. had that streak of 155 errorless games.
Strike one to the rookie shortstop Ronnie Cedeno, having a nice start to this season. He's batted everywhere up and down the Cub batting order, but they are looking for any offense whatsoever wherever they can find it, and Cedeno bangs one into left field, a base hit. Pasetnik over to cut it off, and Cedeno a one-out single here in the opening inning. Talked about the Cubs offense. Dead last in just about every major statistical category there is. Average, runs, hits, total bases, doubles, on base percentage, slugging percentage, home runs, you name it.
And they're only 7 games under 500. That truly is hard to believe. I mean, no offense. The pitching has given them a chance, and still they're missing their big guys. So they're going to improve once they get them back, Tom.
Todd Walker batting in that 3-hole vacated by the man who arguably was the National League's most valuable player a season ago, Derek Lee. Lee wound up finishing third in the balloting behind the winner, Albert Pujols, and the runner-up, Andrew Jones of the Atlanta Braves.
Derek Lee is somebody that this team was really counting on, Tom, to go ahead and be in the heart of their lineup and work everybody else around him. And once they lost him, he was irreplaceable. So they really have not been able to fill that kind of a void.
Runner started, then stopped. It's on the inside corner, a called strike to even the count at 1-1. The numbers last year for Derek Lee, just mind-boggling. It's hard to believe those numbers were not good enough to win an MVP.
Hey, wrong place, wrong time. He was playing for the Cubs, who, of course, when you do not play for a contender, it's very difficult to be an MVP. The last time I think that happened for a team that was down in the standings was Andre Dawson back in the day with the Cubs.
1-1 account on Walker, and a bouncing ball will find a hole in the right field, a base hit. Dye getting to the ball quickly, and Cedeno, after a hard turn, will stop at second base. So much like the opening inning yesterday, the Cubs are threatening. They did score in the first inning against Mark Buehrle.
One thing that we're going to have to keep an eye on today is the fact that teams have run at will against Freddie Garcia. He has a very long arm delivery. Opponents realize it. There's not much Freddie Garcia can do about it. He's going to go ahead and do whatever it takes to get hitters out, but at the same time, he knows he's going to be taken advantage of on the base paths.
Michael Barrett, maybe as much as anyone in the Cub lineup, has been directly affected by the departure of Derek Lee, the injury to Derek Lee. First 3 weeks of the season, Barrett knocked in 18 runs, was batting over .320. Since the 22nd of April, he has knocked in 1 run. Breaking ball in there, a strike. And boy, if you don't hit with runners in scoring position at the end of the day, DJ, I think most baseball people feel if you hit with runners on base, you're going to win games. And the Cubs this year hitting .233.
Well, amazingly, Tom, that is one of those statistics that's really important. You have to be able to deliver when they're out there. You can't leave them on the base paths. And one of the phenomenal things about being on a team that plays well as a group and as a whole is it's like a piggyback effect. Everybody jumps on. When one guy's driving in the run, the next guy wants to. And as it appears for the Cubs in this situation, nobody's really stepping up and taking up the brunt of it for Derek Lee, and now they're really cold.
A little bit better on their just completed homestand. You saw those numbers. Winning 2 out of 3 against Washington. There goes Cedeno, and it's grounded to third. And this should be a double play to win the inning, and it is. South side of Chicago, home of the defending world champion White Sox, ending an 88-year drought under their manager Ozzie Guillen. And his starting lineup today presented by Taco Bell. Scott Pasetnik leads off in left field. Tadahito Iguchi at second base, and Big Jim Thome. What a pickup he has been, the designated hitter. Konerko at first, Jermaine Dye right, A.J. Pierzynski catching, a ladder third of Joe Crede, Juan Uribe, and Brian Anderson. And on the mound, young left-hander for the Cubs, one of 3 rookies that's been in their rotation pretty much the whole year, is Rich Hill.
Rich Hill, you see the numbers on him. They're not real impressive at this point, but he's got a very good upside.
Strike one to Pasetnik.
The scouting report's going to be no worries for Rich Hill. Don't worry about what's taking place, even if he's facing these world champions and others.
Pasetnik lets a fly ball into left field. An easy play for Matt Merton. 1 away.
And one thing about Rich Hill this afternoon is he really needs to go ahead and establish his fastball first. He's got a very good curveball. That's going to be a put-away pitch for him if he establishes the fastball. If he doesn't, he's going to have some problems. And forget that 0-3 record in the earned run average. Fresh start today as if it's opening day for him.
Hill, 26 years old, from Milton, Massachusetts, pitched collegiately at the University of Michigan. Appeared in 10 games, 4 starts last year, still looking for his first big league win. He's fallen behind Iguchi at 2 balls and no strikes. Now Iguchi, after spending nearly 10 years playing in Japan, a rookie last year, finished 5th in the voting for the American League Rookie of the Year. But what a sign he has been. Cedeno can't get to it. It's into center field. And Iguchi with a 1-out base hit for the White Sox.
This is one of those little things that may end up hurting the team. Cedeno is a good upcoming prospect for the Cubs, but a play that goes right under his mitt. There are so many shortstop right now that can make this grab. They're going to get the ball, and they're going to spin, and they're going to fire, and there's going to be 2 out instead. So Cedeno getting familiar with the different field and all these types of things might be a factor, but that is a play that's a base hit, of course, but could be made by other players.
The big pull shift put on defensively by the Cubs defense for the man who leads the American League in home run and RBIs, Jim Thome. He looks at a strike. 17 home runs, 41 batted in for the longtime Cleveland Indian. Moved from there to Philadelphia. Last year pretty much a washout year due to injury, but he is back in a big way.
Boy, Jim Thome really worked hard, Tom, during the offseason to be prepared for this year. And it's paid off so much for him. And what an addition. Being an Illinois guy, he comes in, home state, and he starts to get his full swing and health back. It's very impressive.
Big breaking ball that you brought up earlier there from Hill, a swing and a miss. Thome yesterday hit his 17th home run this season. His 47th career interleague home run, which is most in all of baseball. He got Greg Maddux the other way.
I tell you, Tom, Greg Maddux looked at Jim Thome as he rounded the bases as to say, how could you hit that changeup down and away?
That one thrown all the way to the backstop. And advancing on to second base is Iguchi.
Well, I feel that maybe Rich Hill is indeed making this opening day for himself and is going to try and be the intimidator rather than be intimidated. He gets the 1-2 count on Thome. This is setup up and away. Either he's extremely wild, let go of it a little early, or he wanted to make sure that Jim wasn't leaning across the plate.
We talked about hitting with runners in scoring position. And Thome, the #1 hitter in the American League in such situations, hitting nearly .470. Breaking ball stayed up and in. 3-2. Well, many wondered whether or not Thome could come back and be the player he once was. You see the numbers last year, only 59 games with Philadelphia. Very low batting average, was just never healthy. And we asked him, was he concerned about being ready for this year?
Well, you don't know. You know, I think one thing, you always believe, you always want to believe, because that's, you know, what we're always instilled to do, is to believe in yourself and do it. But until you actually go out and get it done, you know, there is that question. And you know, even as spring training got going on, I really wasn't swinging the bat very well, you know, and as spring training kept going and going, we got halfway through it, things started to kind of click in, and, you know, it's worked out good.
Great feature on the pregame show today here on Fox. Thome drawing the 1-out walk. 2 on, 1 out for Paul Konerko. A .320 batter, 9 home runs and 33 runs batted in. Konerko, the captain of the White Sox.
Yes, he has been, I guess, nominated for that role. The captain. He's accepted it, but it's a quiet captain, to say the least. Paulie will not go around saying things to players and yelling and screaming. He just leads by example.
These are the struggles Hill has had in his starts this season. Control in 15 1/3 innings. He had issued 10 walks. And now Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach under Dusty Baker, will come out and try and settle him down.
Well, it doesn't matter how good you are, Tom. If you're going to come up from the minor leagues as a highly touted prospect, and being a team where there's tons of pressure to succeed, such as the Cubs. Everybody knows, being a Cub at Wrigley Field and wearing that uniform, the fans expect a lot. You still have to deliver, and he has not yet reached that point to where he feels comfortable, it appears to me. How can a guy that in the minor leagues had 376 innings in and 524 strikeouts not be able to step right up here and continue with that success? Well, it's got to be all between the ears.
White Sox knocking on the door here in the bottom of the first inning of a scoreless game. Pickoff attempt. And leading it all the way, Iguchi. Two and 0 on Konerko, and he looks at a strike. Well, generally, scoring first, scoring frequently early on, is a recipe for success. And look no further than these numbers. The White Sox have outscored the opposition in the first 3 innings of games by nearly 50. The Cubs in the red by 32.
That is without a doubt very important.
This one hammered down the line and bending foul.
You know, the White Sox have the pitching that if you give them an early lead, it's really going to be difficult for an opponent to come back and walk away with the victory. But on the other hand, they also have the offense that if they do not jump out to an early lead, they're fully capable of moving along throughout the game and waiting to get into somebody's bullpen and taking advantage of the starters having a good game. So the White Sox are truly a well-rounded team, and the Cubs are trying to go ahead and get themselves righted, and it's just taking a little time.
Mentioned earlier, Kerry Wood just came back this week, albeit in a losing 2006 debut to the Nationals 2 days ago over at Wrigley Field. 2-2 on Konerko. And a bluff throw back to second base. Konerko has put up some monster numbers, but he is a bona fide double play candidate. In fact, has bounced into more double plays than any player in the major league since 1999. And the Cubs are hoping for another one right now.
Well, Paulie has definitely made some adjustments since then. He really has not been that same guy that's led the league in double plays. Last year, when he was in a double play situation, he made a very conscious effort to go back up the middle or into right field. He stopped beating the ball down into the ground at third base, which the pitchers were trying to entice. So he's not the same kind of hitter as he had been in the past in that sense.
Runners at first and second, one out. Iguchi goes, and it's blasted foul up the third base line. Konerko, a former #1 pick out of Chaparral High in Scottsdale, Arizona, by the Los Angeles Dodgers, who traded him for Jeff Shaw to Cincinnati. The Reds then sent Konerko here for Mike Cameron.
Well, as it's turned out for Paulie, he found a place where he can finally be just left alone to become the major leaguer he was expected to be. LA didn't work out. Cincinnati, it's one of those situations where they liked him, but they needed something else. It's been great for him to be here in Chicago.
Both runners go this time on the ground, knocked down, getting to the bag, and then throwing to first. It's in time to turn the double play. Very nicely done on both ends by Ramirez to stay with it, and a pick by Mabry on the other corner. Dusty Baker and the Chicago Cubs without their star Derek Lee in a scoreless game as we begin the second inning on the south side of Chicago. For Derek Lee, it'll be at least another month and a half. High fly ball into right field. Jermaine Dye drifting, and he's there in front of the track. Got Jones set down to begin the Chicago Cubs second inning. The Cubs playing in the National League Central Division, which has been thoroughly dominated by both the Cardinals and the Astros. Of course, the Cardinals in 2004 advancing onto the World Series. Then last year against these White Sox, it was Houston. They were the wild card in the National League. And the Cubs, despite being 7 games under 500, they're 9.5 back. But with the advent of a wild card, and there's really no second place team in the National League that is separating itself from the rest of the pack, they can kind of hang in there. Wood just came back, get Pryor back, maybe a contribution from Wade Miller, and get Derek Lee along the line. You can stay close enough, maybe you get back in it.
Well, one thing that we can look at when it comes to the Cubs is they definitely need all of those pieces of the puzzle to be successful. You can see that with the record that they have now.
Breaking ball away, 2-2 on Aramis Ramirez. I mean, you got to remember last year, the Astros, a year ago today, were on an 8-game losing streak. They were 15 games under 500.
Oh, and at this point, the Cleveland Indians were about 13 games behind the White Sox.
And it went down to the final weekend.
That's exactly right. So there, without a doubt, is plenty of time for quality teams to improve and go ahead and put a rush on in the second half of the season. But as my partner Ken Harrelson likes to always say, is you can definitely lose a championship in April and May.
Yep.
You have to keep your head above water, and the Cubs have done that.
Straight away center field, playable out there for the rookie Brian Anderson. And that is the second out of the inning. We take a peek ahead to next week on Fox Saturday Baseball. Many of you will see the Braves and the Cubs at 1 o'clock Eastern, noon Central. Others will see the Cardinals and the San Diego Padres from Petco Park at 4 Eastern, 3 Central, 1 Pacific. Check local listings for the game and time in your area. Well, here on our Fox Saturday Game of the Week, you will see plenty of both of these teams throughout the 2006 summer. John Mabry getting a start again today at first base. A .212 batter with a home run and 3 runs batted in.
You know, Tom, there have been a lot of questions to me by the Chicago print media about once they lost Derek Lee if they needed to go out and pick up a big stud first baseman. And in my opinion, if you do that, you're conceding that Derek Lee is not going to be available all year long. And if they feel Derek is going to be back at all, you can't do that. You just got to try and plug a gaping hole. And they're doing the best they can. They're putting anybody and everybody at first base that they can to try and fill in and do something, but it's still big shoes to fill.
Ground ball to the right side. Konerko committed, but Garcia gets to the bag. And Iguchi feeds a pitcher in a 1-2-3 second inning. White Sox come to bat in a scoreless game. Week number 1 of our Saturday Game of the Week. And we're in the Windy City for the Cubs and the White Sox. No score as Jermaine Dye looks at strike 1 from Rich Hill to begin the bottom of the second inning. Dye, last season's World Series most valuable player, and off to a monster start again this year. A .320 batter, 10 home runs, 32 runs batted in. In fact, the middle of this White Sox batting order, Thome, Konerko, Dye, the most lethal trio of any team in baseball so far. I think they're going to charge the pitcher with a ball in the count. It looked like Hill went to his mouth standing on the mound.
Yeah, but getting back to what you're pointing out, Tom, it's truly amazing to watch on a regular basis the heart of this lineup go to work. They pick on good pitchers too.
On the ground, to Jerry Hairston Jr. On the way, we meet the Cubs defensively. Juan Pierre, a big offseason acquisition, plays in center field. They're hoping to get him started soon. Matt Merton in left, and Jock Jones, another pickup during the offseason, in right. Ramirez, Cedeno, Hairston, Mabry third to first with a battery of Hill and Michael Barrett. Pulled foul by A.J. Przinsky. A .336 batter with a home run and 11 runs batted in.
Now, Tom, you and I had the chance to talk earlier today about the fact that one thing about the Cubs is that they are not a team that can really afford to lose a big star or a big starting pitcher. And so far, you look out on the field, and they have some key acquisitions in Juan Pierre, which is one of the premier leadoff guys in the National League for previous years. And then you have Jock Jones, who's a solid ball player. Of course, he is not somebody that's going to carry you if you lose a Derek Lee. And Ramirez has been the guy that you have to really have step up and drive in big runs, and he's been unable to do it.
Breaking ball away, Dusty Baker very frank in our conversation with him earlier today about Ramirez. He said, you know, maybe he'll turn out to be a carrier, meaning he can carry a club without a guy like Lee around. But so far, that's not been the story in his very productive major league career, wherever he has played, especially since coming to Chicago, whether it was Sammy Sosa and then later last year, Derek Lee. He's more of a complimentary guy. That one fouled out of play by Pierzynski. 2-2.
Well, that's such a great point. It's true. There are some players that are not built to be that lead guy in the spotlight. And if Ramirez is that kind of player, nobody should expect him to step up when that big guy is gone. He's just not going to do it. And if that's the case, get what you can from him. He's got to be consistent. And it appears right now that's the one thing he hasn't been as consistent as he had been with the big guys in the lineup. So the Cubs definitely needing several guys to step up, not just Ramirez, and make it a team effort.
3-2 is ball 4 high to Pierzynski. So Hill, after getting ahead of A.J. at no balls and 2 strikes, lost him and walks his second batter early on. It's time for the Burger King Have It Your Way home field advantage. And remember, fans, you can always have it your way at Burger King. But when you win a world championship, you expect a big turnaround at the gate. And boy, has that been the story here on the south side of Chicago. Averaging nearly 10,000 more fans per game this year. The season ticket holders went from almost 8,000 last year to nearly 23,000 this year. And boy, do they like playing in this ballpark. They've won 15 out of 20 so far.
Oh, no question. The White Sox have felt very comfortable here at home this season. And it has so much to do, I have a feeling, because of the bigger attendance. They are getting the adrenaline flowing of the players.
Breaking ball high to third baseman Joe Creedy. 2 balls and no strikes. First time since 1917. They crowned a baseball champion on the south side of Chicago. The Cubs know all about that and then some. They've not been champion since 1908. St. Clair came so close in 2003 in that memorable 7-game National League Championship Series loss to the Marlins.
Well, the city of Chicago is waiting for that 1906 World Championship matchup to come back, huh? Between the North and the South Siders. But right now, I'd say that the Cubs, they got to get it going.
A 4-pitch walk to Creedy. And Hill is in a bit of a bind again.
Well, here is a young pitcher that for some reason or another is just not taking to the big league level yet. Now, we can reflect back to Greg Maddux, who also once called up to the big leagues right out of AAA, struggled, was sent back down dominated there, called back up, struggled, lost 14 games his first full year in the big leagues, and then he went on to win 15 or more for 15 straight years. So you can never, ever, to me, go ahead and put a label on a young, talented pitcher like this. You just got to let him grow at this level and see what happens.
Maddox a loser to Mark Burley in the opening game of this interleague series yesterday. 2-on for Juan Uribe. Both the Chicago shortstop and their center fielder Brian Anderson slow to get started this year, but they figure for both it will turn around.
One thing Juan Uribe has proven in the past is that he can, when he gets hot, and he's very streaky, carry you just like any other big stud in your lineup. You know, one thing, Tom, is that when you have the whole lineup doing such a nice job, and you have your shortstop and center fielder that are struggling offensively, all they have to focus on is catching the ball, and they're both doing that. So offense is not needed at this point.
9 straight balls out of the strike zone by Hill. Make it 10. A fastball is high.
Well, Rich Hill's going to have a little conversation with his pitching coach now, but he really is out of sorts right now. You can see him kind of short-legging it. He's not really driving, and everything is up high for him. And the pitching coach is going to tell him, hey, look, you need to go ahead and stretch it out. You need to hang out over that rubber a little bit more. Don't rush it. And just bring the ball to the catcher's mitt. If you ever worry about the guy that's standing in the batter's box when you're struggling throwing strikes, you've got problems, because you're not going to throw strikes. You need to block him out. He's not even there. Throw it to the mitt. And if they hit you, they hit you. You've seen it. You've been around baseball since you were in diapers, you know?
Well, just about. I'm still trying to get through the diaper stage. 2-0 the count. And that one's swung on and fouled back out of play. So Uribe, after 10 straight balls, 2-0 hacking against Hill.
You know, I've always been one of those people that has said, hey, look, a guy's really struggling, don't help him out. But at the same time, if you're struggling, it's the perfect time to look for a fastball right there.
Taken high. He checked his swing. They appeal, and no. Says Paul Nauert, the first base umpire. Greg Gibson today behind the plate. Charlie Relaford, the crew chief at second base, and Larry Vanover is at third. 2-on, 1 out. No score. Bottom of the second inning. Big pitch for Hill. 3-1 on Uribe. And it's ball 4. He's walked. The base is loaded.
Well, Rich Hill obviously not finishing his pitches off right now. He's just not reaching out and throwing the baseball. He appears to be cutting it off his release, and he just can't get the ball down. And Larry Rothschild has already been out there and talked to him. Barrett has been out there and talked to him, and he's just not getting it. At this point, it could just be nerves. He's 0-3 coming in with a .763 earned run average, and now he's put himself in a high-pressure situation. It just keeps getting worse.
Now the rookie center fielder, Brian Anderson, he looks at a strike. Anderson, 24 years old, born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, and that's where he played collegiately for the University of Arizona. #1 draft pick out of the U of A by the White Sox, where they have their spring training home. Breaking ball down and in, 1-1.
Well, with Rich Hill showing that curveball and missing with it, Brian Anderson pretty much with the bases loaded and 1 out can erase that pitch and sit on his fastball, and he struggled. He can foul it back, but it's a good one to look for.
Got a fastball and lifts a fly ball into short left field. Pierzynski wanting to know, am I going? He is going. Here comes a throw by Merton. It is a collision at the plate, and Pierzynski not only bangs into Barrett, bangs onto the plate, and here they go. Posednik getting into it with Barrett, and now both dugouts empty behind home plate. I mean, there is some hooking going on in the bottom of 2 piles. Trying to separate players on both sides. Pierzynski ran right through Barrett and then slammed his hand on home plate, and Barrett came after him. Posednik wound up more involved with Barrett than Pierzynski did.
Well, that's the kind of unit the White Sox have been. You go after one of them, you're going after all of them. And A.J. Pierzynski was going around Barrett trying to get to his helmet after the collision, and Barrett took exception to the actions of Pierzynski and gave him a right cross as he was holding him. And from there, A.J. had backup. Scott Posednik was right there behind him and came in and picked him up. This is the kind of thing that can help each team. The White Sox are already a unit that have proven they're there for each other, and the Cubs, this could really cement them together. You never know how a brawl like that pulls a unit together.
I saw Pierzynski igniting the crowd by waving his hands before going back into the dugout. Of course, he has always been a very controversial figure his entire career, going back to the Minnesota Twins, the Giants, and now the White Sox.
Well, without question, this is a good, clean play by Pierzynski. He has to go through the catcher. He's blocking the plate. He takes Barrett out and scores the run. And it's after that what takes place. Barrett took exception to Pierzynski getting up and trying to go through right there. And then he's just going to go ahead and hit him. And Posednik right there has his back. The thing that takes place after this, and obviously Barrett has got to be tossed out of this ball game. Posednik getting in there and trying to get a hold and do what he can. And from there, it just got ugly. Everybody was involved, Tom.
Well, there's so much going on, DJ, as you know, having lived in this town, played for both sides. There's so much going on right now in this rivalry between these two teams, especially with the White Sox having won the World Series last year. I mean, their fans want blood in this series. They want to rub it in the Cubs' faces, and the Cubs, you know, they want to beat the defending world champs.
Oh, without question. You know, you come to this ballpark, and on a day like this, this usually takes place up in the bleachers. But it is spilled out onto the field today as good, clean, hard baseball being played between these two teams. And Michael Barrett, simple as that, felt that maybe A.J. Pierzynski was rubbing it in his face when he got up and bumped into him after scoring this run.
Maybe you wonder about the slap on the plate, getting up. It looked like Pierzynski wasn't trying to run into Barrett, but he did run into Barrett. You don't know if he said anything or not, which may have precipitated Barrett's reaction, but one that will not only cost him the rest of today, it will also get in his wallet.
No question. And, you know, the thing that I don't like about what happens after these brawls start is it is every player's responsibility to get out there. I don't care what anybody says in Major League Baseball, to get out there and protect your players. You have to get their back. Now, somebody else may be tossed because of their participation in that brawl, but in my opinion, it has to take place. You can't just let those two stand out there and hook it. This is not the NBA where nobody can leave the bench. Everybody's going to leave the bench and partake in this action, and they'd better, because last man standing in the dugout's the last man that doesn't want to be seen in the locker room after. So it's one of those situations where I have a feeling the White Sox are truly going to benefit, and it's going to push them. I've seen it in the past. I'm around this team an awful lot, and they have definitely become a better unit, something to talk about in the locker rooms after these situations. And that's a good right cross by Barrett, but when you're holding the guy and having spun around, it's a perfect situation to let one go. And you see Brian Anderson actually.
I've got to believe Anderson will get thrown out of the game along with Barrett.
Yeah, he came in and made sure that he had somebody's back. Brian Anderson's a frustrated player. You had mentioned that offensively he hasn't really had a whole lot to do with helping the team this year, and last thing he wants to do is be left out in some action like that.
Well, the umpires are gathering, and now they're talking with Ozzie Guillen. Here you get a look at Anderson throwing a big right cross aimed at John Mabry, and then A.J. Pierzynski walking back to the dugout saying no glass chin here.
Well, right now it appears that home plate umpire Greg Gibson has thrown A.J. Pierzynski out of the game. And if that's the case, I never saw him throw a punch.
The only thing you wonder, it's like we talked about, the only thing you wonder is when Pierzynski then slapped the plate and he bumped into Barrett. Did he say anything to Barrett?
Correct.
But that does not negate the fact that Barrett threw the first punch. Barrett's got to be thrown out of this game, and now he is. I mean, he has to be thrown out of the game, and for Dusty to argue that would fall on deaf ears.
Oh, no question. Matter of fact, if you're Dusty Baker, all you can really come out and do is say, all right, well, if he goes, their guy has to go. He was involved in it. And that's generally what a manager wants to see. And even a wash in a situation like this. Their guys have to go, somebody that's important to their team. Barrett, he is really the heart of this offense that has struggled this year. And for you to lose your number 4 hitter and your backstop is not a plus, to say the least.
Well, Dusty Baker is talking with Charlie Rutherford on one side. On the other side, Larry Vanover along with Greg Gibson are talking with Ozzie Guillen, who in Ozzie animated fashion is making his point, whatever that might be. I'm sure one of his players has been thrown out, if not more than one, and he wants to know why.
Well, this has a long history in Major League Baseball of rivalries like this, getting into it. You got, of course, Veritek and Alex Rodriguez a couple of years back. And our producer, Jeff Gowans, even pointed out, go back to Fisk and Piniella.
Yep.
I mean, there's been some interesting, when these rivalries get together, things take place. And I'm telling you right now, Tom, this is something the Cubs really needed. It can help them so much in that locker room and bring them together as a unit and cement them as one. And, you know, it's yet to be seen, but I did see it take place right here in this ballpark when the Detroit Tigers and the White Sox were playing some years back, and a big brawl broke out, and after that the White Sox just took off and they became a winning team. I think it was 2000 that it took place, and they were a playoff team after that.
Well, we're still waiting for everybody to get an explanation as to who's in the game, who's not. Now they're talking with Mabry, and makes you wonder whether or not he has been thrown out of the game after getting locked up there. We showed you the scuffle that he wound up in with Brian Anderson. We do know that Barrett has been thrown out of the game because Blanco has already come on catcher's gear behind the plate.
Well, the thing that's going to really hurt the Cubs this afternoon and losing a few players is that they do not have the same quality bench of the Chicago White Sox. They have guys that they can really go to and contribute and help them win. Once, twice a week they're out there in a starting role and doing a good job, and a Chris Widger behind the plate. Rob Makoviak's been out there, Alex Cintron, Pablo Ozuna. The whole bench for Ozzie Guillen has done something to help them win games. Now, unfortunately for Dusty Baker, he's very limited when it comes to that kind of quality off of his bench. His guys, the best, are generally on the field for him.
Well, now Neifi Perez has come on from the Cubs first base side dugout, playing catch with Ronnie Cedeno. It looks like there's going to be a number of changes for Dusty Baker's team. Mabry, you would assume, has been thrown out.
And it's so hard for these umpires with some melee like that going on. Very difficult for them to be able to see all the things that take place in a pileup like that. They're going to miss something, but Major League Baseball will come from behind and say, we saw the video. We know who was involved in it. We saw it. You're fined. You're fined. You're fined. They won't suspend guys that have not been tossed from games, but they definitely can come from behind and find some of the guys, the participants in that free-for-all.
Fly ball into left field. Throw coming in from Merton. The collision at the plate. Pierzynski into Barrett. They both get up, get tangled up. Right hook by Barrett. Melee on. That was Mabry involved in the fight there with Anderson. Mabry has been thrown out of the game.
And again, this is a clean hit. And Pierzynski, little instigation right there, slapping the plate, saying something to Barrett. Barrett, the cheap shot in over the shoulder. Pierzynski came in there. He actually tried to take a swing at, Posetnik also. Brian Anderson, who had just hit the fly ball, got there quickly and got involved. So I'm going to assume Mayberry was one of the fastest ones there. The umpires saw all the instigators in that situation. After that, very tough to see who was involved.
Well, the Cubs have already made a number of changes. Mabry is out of the game, so he's been thrown out. Dusty Baker will move Jerry Hairston Jr. over to play first base. Now Pierzynski, he slaps the plate. and then he gets up, and where's he going?
And
I mean,
look,
the White Sox dugout's on the other side of the field.
well, it appeared to me that I thought his helmet was behind Barrett, and it actually wasn't. His helmet was gone. He was a little woozy also, possibly, from that hit. And a little off balance bumping into Barrett. Who knows? All I know, if I would have been in the same situation as Barrett and he bumped into me after just hitting me, I might have taken the same exception as Michael Barrett did. And you said it right from the get-go. There's no telling what A.J. Pierzynski said right in his ear because they were face-to-face.
Well, you know, while we have a slight delay here, again, Dusty Baker going to come out and go over the lineup changes with the home plate umpire, Greg Gibson. You're around the White Sox, DJ, every day. A.J. Pierzynski, wherever he has been, the guys on his own team, some of them like him, some of them maybe not. If you play against A.J. Pierzynski, very few players like him. Even the White Sox didn't like Pierzynski when he played for Minnesota, but now he's one of your own. You're around him every day. What are your thoughts or impressions of A.J. Pierzynski?
Don't judge a book by his cover. That's for sure. A.J. is a person that when you talk to him one-on-one, you're around him in the locker room, he is yapping, but it's in a lighthearted sense. He's actually a great guy to have around. He has not been a distraction in the locker room for this team. The guys pick on him, have fun with him. He takes it better than anybody I've ever seen as he gives it. He's just a guy that likes to have fun and keep it loose. So with me being around and seeing this, A.J. really is not mean-spirited or a bad person, but he does know how to irritate his opponent, bug him, and really has no problem with them not liking him at all. If he's on your team, he may say something to you don't want to hear, but you've got to understand. You've got to look past what he's saying and know the man himself. He's clowning you. He's just trying to get a rise out of you. That's what A.J. does, and he does it very well. I don't think anybody on this team really has a problem with A.J. Pierzynski at all. But you said it, Tom. Opponents, that's a different story altogether.
Well, you hope that what has taken place on the field here does not spill over into the stands. I mean, this is an energy-charged rivalry as it is. And there's no sense in the fans starting to throw right hooks at one another just because something happened down on the field.
Well, that's a great point, Tom, because this has been a place where when this rivalry particularly gets together, on occasion, you might see that out in the bleachers.
All right, we're finally back at it. Posednik is still in the game. That might have been a debatable topic during all this. Although Posednik appeared to be just protecting A.J. Pierzynski by going and corralling Michael Barrett. So Scotty is still in there. Runners on the corners, 1-0 White Sox. 2 away in the inning, and Hill going to work. That's a breaking ball. No real intent there by Hill. Could have been a fastball, that's one thing. Not a breaking ball.
Well, right now, this crowd is just waiting for any other fireworks that they can see. And that breaking ball, most questionably, is not an effort to hit Posednik. You got Pierzynski on the mind.
So do a lot of other people right now.
That big curveball. Scotty's just going to duck under it, no problem.
2-1 to Posednik. Breaking ball off the outside corner. First batter in this White Sox second inning, Jermaine Dye grounded out. But then 3 consecutive walks issued by Hill, leading to the sac fly RBI and the fight. 3-1 to Posednik. Ball 4. 4th walk of the inning and 5th in the game for Hill. And now Dusty Baker is going to get his bullpen started. Knowing the Cubs and their offensive struggles so far this year, they can ill afford to fall behind by even 2 runs the way things have gone, especially since Derek Lee went down.
You're so right, Tom. It's not an offense that's going to be real explosive, these Cubs, and they definitely don't want to have to get in a big knock them down, drag them out baseball game.
Tadahito Iguchi singled into center field his first time up. He looks at strike 1 with the bases loaded.
I guess one thing we can really focus on is that Rich Hill has been in a huge jam in this inning, and he's only allowed the 1 run. One thing about the White Sox on the year, they are not real greedy in that sense. When they get an RBI situation, they'll take any little base hit they can get.
Breaking ball floats high. We talked about the Cubs hitting in the low 230s with runners in scoring position. The White Sox are flirting with 300 at 299.
Because of what we were just talking about, Tom, the fact that they don't get real greedy. They'll take a base hit up the middle rather than swinging for the fences.
Grounded, foul up the third baseline. 2-2 on Iguchi.
Of course, this is a very powerful offense the White Sox possess with their 59 home runs. But again, it's a nice balance. They know when to swing for the fences and when not to. And the Cubs, unfortunately, only come in with their 27 home runs because of that huge loss of Derek Lee.
2-2 pitch. High fly ball into left field, hit pretty well. Merton back at the wall. Goodbye. Fireworks aplenty on the south side of Chicago. A 5-run inning.
Well, Tom, that's going to leave a mark. Rich Hill so close to getting out of trouble. 1 pitch, 4 runs. After a chopper foul, Iguchi gets a fat one on the inner part that was supposed to be away.
Oh, and 2 to Tommy.
Iguchi, just part of that offense that steps up and helps out like anybody throughout the lineup.
And there's strike 3 called to Tommy to end the inning. But what a wild bottom of the second inning. They stand and cheer the defending world champions. A fight and a grand slam. And they're loving it on the south side. All righty. Hope you had time to catch your breath after that bottom of the second inning. We open the third. We know A.J. Pierzynski's been thrown out. Chris Widger is taking over for him behind the plate. There's a tapper by Matt Merton to short, and Uribe throws him out. As we suspected, Brian Anderson has been thrown out of the game as well after getting locked up with John Mabry. And Rob Makoviak, who came over from the Pirates, takes over in center field.
Tom, there's your toss-outs. Tom, you ever been tossed out of a game, huh?
A lot of people at home would like to see me tossed out of some games.
Whatever.
How about you?
Me? No, me?
Come on now.
I'm not that kind of guy.
Well, maybe not now.
I would sneak them in. They couldn't. The umpires couldn't see me.
1-0 the count. And a high pop-up off the bat of Jerry Hairston Jr. And the shortstop out to get it in fair territory, and just like that, 2 up and 2 down for Freddie Garcia. Now, you mentioned earlier Garcia coming in after really getting knocked around his first start of the season by the Cleveland Indians, lasting 4 innings, allowing 7 runs. But since then, he has ripped off 6 straight wins. And he's the last guy in the world the Cubs want to see. His 4th career start today against him, a 2-0 record with a 0.64 ERA.
Yeah, I think that Freddie has pretty much established he has no problem with this particular club. And it just sometimes you feel good against a certain color uniform. That's all. It's the uniform.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's not the players, because the players keep changing. So it really doesn't make much sense why you own one particular team compared to others. But in the sense of Freddie Garcia, I think it has to do a lot with day baseball, since that has been his true forte of ownership.
Breaking ball too low. Freddie Garcia, only 29 years old. It seems like he's been around forever. Of course, he came up through the Astros organization, was involved in the Randy Johnson deal going to Seattle. And now a member of this sensational White Sox starting rotation. He sets them down in order in the third. Bottom of the third inning. Sellout crowd on a gorgeous spring Saturday in the Windy City. And a 5-0 White Sox lead as they bat against Rich Hill in the last of the third. Heart of the order. Konerko, Dye. And then, of course, the change with Chris Widger for the ejected A.J. Pierzynski. That one in foul ground, comes back towards the infield. And staying with it, Hairston. One away. Here is today's trivia question brought to you by Capital One. It's a good one. Who are the only two players to hit 25 or more home runs for both the Cubs and the White Sox? And that's in their careers. Told you Nafi Perez took over at second base after all the craziness in the bottom of the second. 4 players ejected. John Mabry, Michael Barrett, Brian Anderson, A.J. Pierzynski.
I've got to say, Tom, it's the manager of the Cubs, Baker, has done a pretty good thing here, bringing Rich Hill back out to try and have a good inning. He needs a positive thought. If he just yanks him after that terrible second inning, you know, he has nothing but negativity working in his mind and thinks that the organization, the manager, everybody's down on him. So you send him back out there, hope he has a good third inning, and you keep him out there as long as he can go after that.
Well, there have been so many stories here of late about, Dusty Baker. Will he remain as Cub manager? He's in the final year of his contract, a 4-year deal that he originally signed after leaving the San Francisco Giants. Look at the numbers on Hill. Already his 61st pitch of the game, and it's strike 3 called to Jermaine Dye. 2 away here in the third inning. And the talk shows are going to light up and everybody all over Dusty Baker's case right now. But I would challenge any team in baseball, and Lord knows Dusty doesn't need me sticking up for him or anybody else. I mean, he's won over 1,400 games as a manager in his major league career. That one hit down the left field line and bending foul and out of play. But I mean, you pick a team, and Cub fans, maybe the team they're most familiar with, let's say the Cardinals. If you were to take away Chris Carpenter, if you were to take away Mark Mulder, and take away Albert Pujols, where would the Cardinals be today? 7 games under? They'd probably be pretty happy in St. Louis with that, and not be screaming for Tony La Russa's head.
I don't think a better example could be given. I mean, that's as perfect as it gets. And the difference is the cities. St. Louis, Chicago.
You're right.
There's the difference.
You're right. Great point. Touche indeed. St. Louis, they've been winning a lot of games for a long time. On the north side of Chicago, that has not been the story. High fly ball into left field. So Rich Hill does have a positive inning here in the third. He sets it down in order. We move to the fourth. 5-0 White Sox. Fox Saturday Baseball brought to you by Capital One. What's in your wallet? By Flomax. And by new Gillette Fusion, the best shave ever in manual and battery power. Get a look at Grant Park, just south of downtown Chicago. That's over in your hood, Mr. Jackson.
Oh, yeah. You better believe it. Proud to say it.
Take a dip in the fountain there every now and again, do you, in the summertime?
No.
Maybe the Taste of Chicago, something like that?
I'll look at it all.
All right. Breaking ball away to Ronnie Cedeno as we begin the fourth inning. 5-0 White Sox. 5 runs, only 2 hits for the White Sox. No runs and 2 hits for the Cubs. Cedeno has 1 of them. They appeal, and he did not go around. 2-1. In fact, both hits allowed by Garcia came to Cedeno and Walker back-to-back in that opening inning. Fly ball, short right field. Dye is there, 1 gone. And once again, our trivia question today brought to you by Capital One, who are the only 2 players to hit 25 or more home runs for both the Cubs and the White Sox. And coincidentally, they were traded for one another. Sammy Sosa and George Bell.
And a little flashback. George Bell, he was pretty good.
He was good. He could hit.
Sosa, I guess he wasn't bad either.
No. Sammy hit 28 for the Sox before coming over to the Cubs, where he hit 545 of them. And George Bell Hit 38 his first year as a member of the White Sox after leaving the Cubs.
That's truly amazing to think about that. Both outfielders at that point, Sammy with all the upside of being the young superstar, George Bell coming over here and basically becoming a DH, helping the Sox, helped both teams at that time.
It's really a shame how the whole Sosa saga came to an end in the Cubs organization, with having walked out on his team the last day, and much was publicized about all that. And even though he did not have the kind of final season with the Cubs that, of course, he had hoped and their fans would hope, it's really too bad when you have a guy who means so much to an organization for so long, and then it ends ugly. Well, that is so true, and a very similar situation for the White Sox all-time slugger, Frank Thomas.
Yep. And it's a sad state of affairs if that's the case. I think that players, once they exit a place that they had so much success, it's in their best interest to walk away shaking hands with everybody that was involved and never burn that bridge. I truly believe that, and I really can't stand to see when it goes the other direction.
3-2 to Todd Walker, and Garcia kicks and delivers. And it's popped up short of left field. Posednik for the second out. Yeah, in fact, for the White Sox, and cutting ties with Frank Thomas, it really finally came to a head. It appeared in spring training this year when Thomas, now with the Oakland Athletics, had a few things to say about the owner of the team, Jerry Reinsdorf, and some of the treatment that Frank felt should not have been after leaving. And then Kenny Williams, the general manager of the White Sox, I mean, he let Thomas have it. And I guess, DJ, they finally were able to put this thing to bed, or is it still kind of lingering around? Well, I mean, sometimes, you don't always believe what you read.
Right. Now, the truth be told is, Frank and I are friends and have been since '94 when I came to the White Sox as a player. Frank should never have made comments like that. I think they were unfounded. He shouldn't have said it, and he should have moved on and been happy. He was treated almost like royalty here by this organization, and with respect. And I think what happens in times like that, where you don't want to leave somewhere, you're just emotional and you're hurt, and you say things. And Frank Thomas, unfortunately, has said a lot of things in his career at the spur of the moment. He didn't think about it, and it's cost him sometimes in his reputation.
Rafi Perez now batting in the number 4 hole after replacing Michael Barrett, who was thrown out. It's only the 4th time in Nafi's career, plate appearance, 4th ever, that he's batted in the cleanup spot.
Hey, how can you not put this guy in the number 4 spot? What, are you kidding me?
2-2. There you get a look at the chairman, Jerry Reinsdorf. As owner of both the White Sox and the Chicago Bulls, had the marvelous run through the Michael Jordan era with the basketball team, but finally winning a title with the White Sox.
All of his dreams coming true. He is a true baseball fan. Grew up in Brooklyn, a Dodgers fan. Loves the game of baseball. Simple as that. And he was extremely pleased to finally, after all these years, come across with this World Series victory.
Bouncing ball to the right side. Boy, Freddie Garcia just picking him up and laying him down. 10 in a row set down by the White Sox right-hander. Fox Saturday Baseball is brought to you by Chevy, baseball's #1 fan. Chevy, an American revolution. Sold out U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago, and the White Sox with a 5-0 lead. Joe Creedy, an excuse me roller to the second baseman Perez. 1 pitch and 1 out. Uribe dumps it foul and out of play.
You know what, Tom? You and I have sat up here prior to the game and during this game, and the energy was there long before we had the brawl.
Yeah.
It is. I don't think it is enhanced at all. I think the entertainment level was just brought up. That's all.
Well, the Chicago fan, whether it be a White Sox fan or a Cub fan, a Bulls fan, when they were rolling, boy, if you've got a good team, there's no more enthusiastic crowd in the country. Popped up into short right field. And while we have a moment, let's send it back to Los Angeles and welcome Jeannie Zelasco. Hi, Jeannie. That's a great robbery as well, but that New York Mets team, wow, what a lineup they have. They're finally getting everybody except for Floyd going, and you know Cliff Floyd will get it going. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Hill, who since the home run has now retired 7 in a row. 5-0 game. Top of the 5th inning, the Cubs and the White Sox from the south side of Chicago, and the defending world champions with a 5-0 lead. Jock Jones, first pitch swinging down a strike against Freddie Garcia, who's retired 10 in a row since he got a double play ball off the bat of Michael Barrett with 2 on and 1 out in the opening inning. You know, with all the talk about Dusty Baker, you know, whether or not he should or should not remain on as the Cubs manager. You know, unfortunately for the Cubs, that's been their history, is to just fire the manager rather than taking a look at some of the players they bring in here and how they produce or don't produce. I think the baseball world was stunned, and it's not picking on Jock Jones, but the Jones was given a 3-year contract coming off one of the worst seasons in his career. The Cubs signed Glendon Rush and Nafi Perez to 2-year contracts, and the point of all this being, when you commit yourself to that many long-term contracts for marginal or, you know, average players, you really make it hard for them to go out and make a deal should something happen like Derek Lee.
Well, that's a great point, Tom, and you're right. There is somebody that always has to be the fall guy. If your team's not hitting, it's the hitting coach. If the overall experience with that club is a struggle, the manager. Pitching, somebody's going to have to fall. And the funny thing is, it doesn't generally happen with the general manager. He's the one that's making the moves. So I think it truly should start up top with the general manager and go from there.
Strike 3 called on the inside corner to Jock Jones. We caught up with Ozzie Guillen in between innings, and we begin with his impressions of the fight a moment ago.
Well, I think it's amazing. I think the people got a little excited. You know, it was a little bit out of hand, but I think that fight got to bring up together and more tougher and you know, pull for each other a little bit more now.
Ozzie, do you feel that that's one of the things also that can cement a team like the Cubs? You know, you're down there on the field level. Dusty Baker needs anything and everything to get his team to work together as a unit. Do you see that helping them on the other side of it?
They might. You know, when you do something like that, that means you stick up for each other and you fight for your teammates. It's no doubt in my mind they got to get stronger and they got to pull for each other better. And they might do what they need to start playing better.
Ozzie, for the first month and a half of this season, do you like your team better than the one that won it all last year?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to say that because when you win it all, you know, I got players play for me real well. But in the meanwhile, I think we have better lineup and our pitching staff is a lot better right now.
Thanks for the time.
All right, guys.
Meanwhile, the string of 11 in a row set down by Garcia comes to an end on a single and then an error charged to the right fielder Jermaine Dye, allowing Aramis Ramirez to reach second base. He is something, Ozzie Guillen.
Yes, he is a breath of fresh air, if you ask me, in the game of baseball. He is unique. There's really nobody else that's come along like him.
Henry Blanco bats for the first time since taking over 4. Michael Barrett behind the plate. He bats in the 7-hole where John Mabry was in the lineup. Breaking ball swung on and missed. 0-2 on Blanco, who has 2 hits so far this season. Very low batting average. Has always been a very good catch and throw guy.
That's it. He is the kind of guy that pitchers like to throw to. He knows how to call a game. And whatever offense he can offer is a bonus to his team. But you mentioned just the last inning, the Freddie Garcia pretty much has had it on cruise control since the first inning. And he's that kind of guy. If he gets in a good rhythm, and he has improved from start to start, even though he's 6-1, he has a 4 .56 earned run average coming into this, which means something went wrong along the way to be 6-1. It was his start. He gave up some runs, but still was winning games. And it has been from start to start to start as the season has progressed that he has gotten better and better. He's not the flamethrower of the past, throwing in the mid-90s. He's now in the high 80s, 90s occasionally. As you see, he's been very efficient each inning with his pitches. It's just gotten better as the years progressed.
Shattered back. And a roller back to Garcia. Blanco will walk back with a sliver left in his hand. 2 away in the inning. We mentioned the numbers for Garcia against the Cubs. Today being his 4th start. And that ERA is coming down even more. Look at the strikeout to walk ratio. That's how you win games.
Well, I think Freddie has proven that he's a top kind of pitcher. 1, 2, 3, top end of a rotation. 105 career wins to 63 losses. I mean, the top all-born Venezuelan pitcher over Wilson Alvarez, my old teammate. And Freddie is no question. He is a dominating pitcher and has a real good chance in his career, as long as he stays healthy, to go ahead and approach that 200 win category.
0-1 to Matt Merton. Breaking ball down and away. Merton bounced to the shortstop his only time up. That's a real nice fit for Garcia here. Maybe not pitching with the same kind of pressure when you're the #1 guy as he was in Seattle. I mean, they have 3 or 4 #1 guys here on this White Sox starting rotation. Between Garcia, Burley, Contreras, who will return tomorrow off the disabled list. You were talking earlier that really since about the midway point of last year through the first month of this year, and the numbers don't lie, Contreras has been the best pitcher in the American League.
Oh yeah, we got an opportunity to talk that off, Mike, and the fact is it's not even the numbers that I'm looking at. I'm looking at his domination. Hitters have really not even had much of a chance.
Big breaking ball swung on and fouled away, and then they make the deal during the offseason to acquire Javier Vazquez from the Arizona Diamondbacks. And if a guy like Vazquez is your #5 starter, there are some that have said, and I think your partner Hawk Harrelson included, that since the day of the 5-man rotation, it might be the best 5-man rotation in baseball history.
I felt from the start of this year, and it's proving to be possibly true, that this could be an organization, a team that wins 15 with each of its starters.
The strike 3 called on the outside corner, a breaking ball, and Merton didn't like the call. 1 hit, an error, 1 left. All Garcia and the Sox thus far. Fox Saturday Baseball sponsored by WebMD. Better information, better health. By Pepsi, it's the Cola. And by the auto parts experts at AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Well, the White Sox are in the zone. Coming off a World Series title, their first in 88 years. And they share the best record in all of baseball through the first month and a half of this season with a team in their own division. The upstart Detroit Tigers under manager Jim Leyland.
How about them Tigers? Huh?
How about it?
Jim Leyland stepped forward at the start of this year and said, I'm not having any of that. I mean, they went into a funk when the White Sox went to Detroit and just put a whooping on them after they had been so hot. Jim Leyland stepped back and said, it's not going to start right here and right now. Get back to it. And they really responded well.
3-1 at Pacific, and there's a base hit into center field by the speedy Chicago leadoff man. 16 stolen bases in 21 attempts. What a turnaround for Posednik after a very slow start. But in that American League Central Division, many thought it would be the White Sox and the Indians duking it out, and that may end up being the case. Detroit beginning to play better baseball, getting back to 500. But so far, the Sox and the Tigers.
You know what? It is very surprising, to say the least, that Jim Leyland could come in there pretty much with the same talent that was already available to the Tigers and completely turn that organization around. All it can really do is say that Jim Leyland is one heck of a manager.
No doubt about that. For those of us that saw him and fortunate to see him and be around him in the National League for so many years, it is no surprise that he's turned him around. I don't know about sharing the best record in baseball, but turned him around. Tadahito Iguchi, 2 for 2. And one of them the biggest blow in this game. A sac fly brought in the first run by Anderson in that 5-run second inning, which ignited the fight. And then after a walk, Iguchi stepped up there with the bases loaded. See you later.
That was right in the wheelhouse. Simple as that. Iguchi, who generally will hit his home runs to right field, pitches out over the plate. He obviously was looking for something in and reacted very well.
This guy's a good player, isn't he, DJ?
He is.
Really good player.
I mean, he's the kind of guy that the White Sox had no idea could come in and make the impact that he has in this number 2 spot. Does his job at second base. He runs the bases well. But as a number 2 hitter, he's been irreplaceable. And there is certain responsibilities, in my opinion, for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth hitters in the lineup. When you get to 6 and 7, it's pretty much just hit, driving runs if you can. But there are really certain responsibilities in those top roles.
There goes Pasetnik, and there's a fly ball in the left center field. Going back, Pierre at the wall. Iguchi is homering again. Iguchi, his 8th third hit game of this season, which leads the American League. And he's had some thunder in those hits today.
Well, I think that brawl got Iguchi going. Who'd have thunk it? Tadahito Iguchi has responded with a couple of home runs. He came into this game with just the 4, but he got his juices flowing this afternoon against the Cubs.
Well, in that number 2 hole, Iguchi now with 6 home runs, 23 runs batted in, and has now scored 36 runs from the number 2 spot. That is most in Major League Baseball.
The offense for the Sox is just much improved over last year. I mean, when you have 3 men already in your lineup at this point of the year that are over 30 runs batted in, plus 1 more with 29 in Joe Creedy, and then Iguchi with a big day like this. I mean, the offense is full tilt at this point.
That one's blasted into right center field, a base hit by Jim Thome, and that's going to be it for Rich Hill. Well, after the grand slam by Iguchi, Hill retired 7 in a row until this 5th inning. A single by Pasetnik, another homer by Taguchi, a base hit later, and Hill is gone. Time now for the AutoZone Strike Zone. You get a look at the starters today. A short day again for Rich Hill. Touched for 7 runs, walked 5 batters. And you see the low percentage of strikes. Meanwhile, for Garcia, the beat goes on. Throwing young right-hander Roberto Novoa now takes over on the mound for the Cubs, trailing 7-0 here in the bottom of the 5th inning. 2 runs in. See the numbers on Novoa, appearing in his 12th game. A quiet day, a rare quiet day for Konerko. He's bounced into a double play and fouled out to first.
Just with that statement, you may have woken him up. He put a swing on it.
He'll do that.
Oh, yeah, and he put it on a 2-0 count. Yeah, Paulie doesn't like to be left behind when the offense is clicking. He's not one of those stars that everybody has a hit in the lineup, and he's usually left behind. He's usually right in the fray, but it is early in this game.
Hardy there on the fastball and fouls it out of play. 2-2 on Konerko.
Now, Tom, looking at Rich Hill, and you were talking about that strike percentage down for him today, below 50%, which is, of course, usually not going to lead to victory, pitching behind in the count generally. That was the important thing for him today, to really get ahead. If he got ahead with this fastball, which he just couldn't generally get down in the zone, he got himself in trouble, it really was going to make that curveball effective when he was ahead in the count. Didn't happen.
3-2.
Now the Cubs, their bullpen has not been embarrassing to say the least. They have had some guys do a real solid job and give them a chance this year. There's just a couple guys down there that have had some struggles, but overall, Dusty's been able to rely on them.
On swinging Konerko. We caught up with Dusty Baker a short while ago and got his impressions about that second inning fight.
Well, number one, it wasn't pretty, all those walks that we had. The young man was, he lost his command of the strike zone. And then Michael thought, I asked Michael what happened, and Michael said he hit him, without the ball. But, I mean, that's baseball to me. I think Michael's just frustrated. Everybody's frustrated. And, then everything just broke out.
Dusty, you talk about the frustration. You've been asked about it on a daily basis and maybe even tired of being asked about it. All the stories about whether or not you're going to be back here as manager of the Cubs. Your thoughts of that?
Well, my thoughts are, I got unfinished business here. So everybody was speculating I'm going here and going there, and I'm still here. And this is what I plan on doing, staying here and winning and bringing the championship to Chicago, to the north side.
What's the most important thing to get it turned around right now?
Right now, probably the most important thing is get our starting pitching together. If they don't score, then you got a chance to win. Right now, starting pitching is a little out of whack, and then secondly, right after that, we got to get some offense going. And it'd be great to have D. Lee back, but he won't be back for 3 or 4 weeks. So we got to do something to get some offense going. We got to get a Ramos going. We got to get probably a Juan Pierre at the top of the order going, and then everything else sort of fill in the blanks from there.
Thanks for the time, Dusty.
All right.
Always gracious, Dusty Baker. 2-2 on Dye. And it's fouled out of play down the right field line.
Well, one thing, Tom, when you're leadoff man, and the Cubs leadoff man, Juan Pierre, who I've always had a lot of respect for, he's a good ball player. He came to this game with a .268 on base percentage. And that's very, very low for a guy that needs to be out there and be the igniter of an offense. He needs to be on a little more than that.
Bouncing ball to second, and a double play will end the inning. So a nice job by Novoa. We go to the 6th. 7-0 White Sox. Back on the south side of Chicago, where the White Sox have a 7-0 lead over the Cubs. Yesterday, a rout in favor of the home team as well. The home team being the White Sox in this intra-city battle. Lined into left field and caught by Posednik. Hairston retired to begin the Cubs' 6th inning. Time for the Pepsi fan camp. Great city of Chicago and great baseball fans on both sides of town. Wonder how the relationships work in some of these pictures you're looking at.
I think everybody can really use their own imagination and figure it out, I love the fact when you have these two teams come across each other.
Base hit in center field by Pierre.
And these fans, the families just part. I'm a North Side fan. I'm a South Side fan. And I'd say this year is the first time since they've really started interleague playing, come across each other so much that because of the season ticket attendance being way up, that there are not as many Cub fans in the stadium. Otherwise, it would be a lot louder than it has been when the Cubs do something positive.
Well, the only run the Cubs scored in this series so far was in the first inning yesterday, and that was an unearned run against Mark Burley. And an error by the catcher, A.J. Pierzynski, which led to the unearned run. In fact, the Cubs, after the first batter of the game, only had one hit the rest of the way against the Chicago left-hander.
You were talking about Javier Vasquez, and he was one of those guys that you're very familiar with. He's very good. You worked with him in Arizona. Mark Burley, yesterday's starter, outstanding. You got Freddie Garcia, Jose Contreras. These guys, all the potential of winning 15 games, but also allowing a run early and completely getting the game back under control.
Base hit into left field off the bat of Ronnie Cedeno, his second hit today. So one away here in the top of the 6th inning, and the Cubs trying to make some noise, down by 7.
Freddie Garcia has the ability to get the ground ball, which is key for a pitcher like him, who's now not that power pitcher that he once was. Lots of movement. Fastball, he sinks it. Changeup with good movement. Pretty big breaking curveball, which he'll change speeds on. And he'll throw a slider down and into lefties and down the way to the righties. So with all of that being said, here's a guy with nothing straight and can induce the double play.
What happened in the first inning when the Cubs put 2 on with 1 out? He got a double play off the bat of Michael Barrett to end the threat. The Cubs did not have another base runner until a 1-out single in the 5th inning by Ramirez. And now they have back-to-back hits here in the 6th inning for Todd Walker. 1-0 the count. Check swing, and it's a strike. Looked like a changeup on the outside corner.
Lefty's only .207. The batting average against Garcia coming into this ball game, one of the 5 home runs that he's allowed on the year. So he has used that changeup very effectively down and away. And it comes across a whole bunch of times with Freddie out there that he's so nonchalant and non-caring, but I think the record reflects that he cares.
Hooked into right center field. It'll fall in, a base hit. They're going to hold Pierre at third. He had to wait to make sure Dye would not catch that ball on the fly. And so the Cubs have him loaded. Chris Woodger coming out to visit with Freddie Garcia.
A swing by Walker. He gets out and around the changeup. It's a good pitch by Garcia. Better hitting by Todd Walker. And Pierre in a situation when it's 7-0, not wanting to take a chance and guess that ball was going to land. He had to wait and make sure. Didn't want to get doubled up.
7-0 game, but the Cubs looking to try and get back in it. Boy, we've seen some wild comebacks all over baseball this entire year. Including this week alone. The Yankees came back, matching a franchise record in the history of the Yankees, being behind 9-0 in a game. We've seen Arizona this week come back twice from 10-0 down and 5-0 down. Ground ball, double play here. There's one, and the double play will snuff the rally. There you get a look at the governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich. Big Cub fan, as is his daughter, sitting there with him in one of the boxes here today. Of course, the longtime mayor of the Windy City, Mayor Daley. He's a big Sox fan.
Getting political now, aren't we?
Well.
Yeah, there's no question. The mayor and the governor.
But no one's bigger than Mayor Daley.
Well, I think that's been proven out.
Absolutely.
You know, he runs himself a heck of a city here and does a good job with it. State of Illinois also. And good hands with Blagojevich.
Now, wait a minute. I've been practicing that, and you've been listening to me practicing that for 2 innings.
Oh, yeah. That's why I cheated off you. I've actually met him. He's been up here before. I've talked to him. He said, I'm a Cub fan. Hang with him.
Swing and a miss by Chris Woodger to begin the White Sox 6th inning. Well, you and I were talking, DJ, in between innings. You know, when you're going good, your team is going good, or you individually are going well, you know, you can break your back and you'll dump a single into right center field with the bases loaded. But when your team's going poorly, it's that double play with the bases loaded end in.
Well, I tell you, Tom, I really don't know what you're talking about. You made that up yourself.
You're right.
I've never heard that before. No, that is so true. I mean, day in and day out, as much as you've been in this business, it's just the baseball gods. It's the way they look at this business, the way it's supposed to be played. You see it. The guy that is hitting 190 is going to stand up there 0-2 before he can even take the bat off his shoulder. Bases loaded, he's going to hit into double play. A guy that's hot, going to break his bat and get a double. It's amazing. Here's somebody that's, since he's been brought to the big leagues, been Mr. Clutch, late inning JoJo Creedy. He doesn't have to come through in the 6th, the 5th, or anything like that. It's when it counts in the 8th and 9th that he's delivered.
That one line into short center field. Pierre, a diving attempt, and he got it. Nice play by Juan Pierre. Will take away a hit by Joe Creedy.
You know, and the Cubs need every single effort defensively like that. I think every time there's a ball hitting the ground, the infielders need to get dirty and give it their best effort in the outfield. If they can, throw their body out there and see what they can do to pick up their pitchers. All of those types of little efforts really bring a team up.
The way DJ used to do it.
No. Come on.
Swing and a miss by Uribe. Well, you could go get him now.
Long time ago, Tom. Long time ago.
Yeah, but you're still looking good.
Yeah, you know. We're on the same workout program, you and I.
That's right. That's right, chasing your little kids around the house.
There you
That's
go.
A workout program.
Hey, man, I don't want to hear it. You're talking about your running shoes and that you are a runner.
A machine.
That's it.
It's
you just go.
Scary.
Man, you're glad to be back here running along the lake.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful weekend in Chicago. After a lot of rain over the last couple of weeks. Ground ball and a diving effort by Perez, but off the end of his glove and into right field. That'll be a 2-out single. Well, baseball today and next Saturday, and we'd like to remind you next Sunday it's NASCAR on Fox returning with NASCAR Cup racing from Charlotte. The world's best drivers take to the track defending champion Jimmy Johnson, trying to make it back-to-back crowns. The Coca-Cola 600 next Sunday at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific in high definition, only on Fox. Now Rob Makoviak. Makoviak's been a very solid player for the Pirates the last number of years, playing just about every day. But on a team like the White Sox, he's not going to play every day. But an extremely valuable player to have coming off your bench.
Well, you're so right, Tom. The thing that he brings to this bench is that starting background. He, Alex Cintron, have been with teams and got a whole bunch of at-bats year in and year out, which means they're very valuable with that experience. Makoviak may not start on a regular basis here, but one thing Ozzie Guillen has done as a manager is make sure that those guys that sit over there play regularly. If not once a week, it's going to at least be twice. I mean, he makes sure they get that much starting time twice a week, but sometimes if the team's really going well, it could be up to 3 times a week, which is really great for them.
Good eye, Robbie.
National League players get the opportunity to come into games a lot more with double switches, pinch hitting for the pitcher. It's not the same thing in the American League.
Ozzie's used 21 different lineups so far this season for the White Sox. Swung on and fouled out of play.
My rookie year, I played in 100 games. 100 games. Felt like I was out there all the time. But I only had 182 at-bats.
Wow.
So, I mean, less than 2 at-bats every time I was on the field. But because it being in the National League, pinch hit, double switches, defensive replacement, you always felt like you were part of the team. In the American League, you don't have that luxury. You don't do the double switches. You don't hit for the pitcher.
3-2 on Makoviak.
Last year, I thought it was a little crazy, Ozzie Guillen using his bench as much as he did, but he won a world championship. I don't think anybody should question it.
That looked like a cross-up right there. Where Blanco felt the home plate umpire Greg Gibson got crossed up because he thought that was strike 3. Instead, it's ball 4. And here comes Dusty Baker. He's going to go to his left-hander Will Lohman out of the bullpen. And we'll take a timeout. 7-0 White Sox here in the 6th. My boyfriend wanted to go to a Cubs game for his birthday, so here we are. Go Sox. 7-0 game in favor of the White Sox. 2 on, 2 out in the bottom of the 6th inning, and Will Lohman on to face Scott Pasednik. And Lohman delivers strike 1. Lohman up and down the last couple of years with the Cubs. And you see today he's been a busy man. 18 games since coming back up.
Those numbers are not going to blow your socks off. But he's somebody that needs to get a quick out here on the left-handed Pasednik. I'll tell you, the bullpen really has not done a bad job. There's only a couple of guys that have struggled out there for Baker. But Lohman's job right now is to focus on the 3rd out with runners on and somebody in scoring position. Pasednik usually gives you a good battle, though, with a couple of strikes.
Breaking ball popped up into short left field. It will be playable for Merton, and the inning is over. A scoreless inning for the Sox. And we're back to Chicago after a break from your local Fox station. Freddie Garcia takes a hill for the 7th inning. Working on a 6-hit shutout. He gave up 3 straight hits in the 6th inning, as that one is swung on and fouled out of play by Jock Jones. But for the 2nd time today in a jam, Garcia induces the double play. He got Barrett to end the 1st and Perez to end the 6th.
Jock Jones, a very live bat. He's one of those left-handed hitters that just swings late on a pitch, and next thing you know, it's about 15 rows back in the left field bleachers.
Whereas Jones had an incident with a fan at Wrigley Field this week, where a young lady threw a ball back from the bleachers that nearly hit Jock Jones in the head. Swing and a miss by Jones, and certainly the faithful on the north side of town more than just a little testy about the start of their 2006 season.
Well, when you come in with high expectations, but one thing the fans have to realize, they're working right now handicapped. When you don't have all of your horses running, good luck winning at the major league level. I mean, some teams are so deep all around on their bench and with their starting players on the field in rotation, but the Cubs aren't built like that. They need everything that they have. They can't afford big losses.
2-2 on Jock Jones, and that one lined into right center field, a base hit. Over to cut it off is Makoviak. So Jones will lead off base runner, and we take a timeout to send it back to Los Angeles and Jeannie Zelasco. Well, much like the rivalry in this city, at least early on this year, there is very little debate as to which is the better team in Chicago, and for that matter, New York. I mean, people can say all they want about the Yankees. They're 6 games over 500. The Mets are about to go to 10 over. And right now, they have a better team.
Good point. I mean, the statement is true. At this particular point, the Mets have played better baseball, superior baseball than the Yankees. Simple as that. And the same thing can be said about the Southsiders here in Chicago. It's not to say that's the way it's going to end up, but you got to make the run at what it is now. Right now, at this particular point, somebody's got to be in charge. You can't say that they're equal, and these two teams stand up, the Sox and the Mets.
Now the other big major market where they have 2 teams, well, 2 others, but out in Los Angeles, it's up for great debate as to who is the better team. The Dodgers a slightly better record, but I mean, the Angels are the Angels. They're a team that has been a very good team over the last number of years. And in the Bay Area, again, flip a coin. A little bit better record for the Oakland Athletics, 3 games over. The Giants are a 500 team, but we'll see. Not a clear-cut decision either way. Lined into left field, a base hit by Aramis Ramirez. His 2nd hit today.
It's funny. I'm just looking at little things out on the field and how the Cubs go about their business compared to the White Sox. And there are things that fans should pay attention to see who really is giving the best effort out there. The base hit by Ramirez, you look at Jock Jones, he gingerly runs into second base. Ramirez trots down to first. White Sox have a tendency to run a little bit harder and put a little more pressure on the defense. Even if it's a routine play out there, you got to go ahead and make those fielders look up at you and see you're running hard. It makes a difference.
Well, that's a great point, DJ, because a lot of times that left fielder in a 7-0 game will rather slowly go after the ball. And if all of a sudden he has to look up and sees a guy taking a hard turn, maybe he kicks a thing.
And that starts with the manager. The manager has to tell his players, this is unacceptable. You run the bases hard. You play the game hard.
Double play ball here off the bat of Blanco. 3rd big one today behind Garcia. Well, it's 7-0, but certainly the most memorable moment of this game took place on a sac fly. Collision at the plate between Pierzynski and Barrett. The two bumping into one another. Barrett locking him up, throwing a right hook, and a brawl ensued. We'll be talking about that in Chicago not only tonight and tomorrow, but up until these two teams meet again, which leads us into our Flomax game summary. Taguchi knocking in a career-high 6 runs, first time he's ever hit 2 home runs in a game. And the 4 ejections today, the most of any game played in Major League Baseball this season.
And you don't have that very often. I mean, even with brawls, that 4 guys get ejected because the umpires don't have eyes in the back of their heads. They can't see everything. But today it was right in front of them. They saw all the action. And actually, there could have been a little more damage done to each team. But like I said at that time, Major League Baseball will look at the video and probably there'll be some ensuing fines to certain players.
Well, the White Sox faithful sensing perhaps this could be the final batter for Freddie Garcia today. White Sox have activity in their bullpen. Matt Thornton, big left-hander, cranking it up. Well, what an unbelievable rotation this is on the south side of Chicago. Ground ball to short, should in the inning. Backing up, Uribe throws in time. Burley yesterday, Garcia today, Jose Contreras off the DL tomorrow. Beautiful look at the city of Chicago, the fabulous skyline on the shores of Lake Michigan. Will Omen on the mound facing Tadahito Iguchi, one of only 8 players this season to knock in 6 or more runs in a game. Ben Broussard of the Indians knocked in 8 runs back at the end of April against the Boston Red Sox. But for Iguchi, his first career grand slam, his first career multi-homer game, and a career high 6 runs batted in. 3-0.
And we talked about Jim Thome taking everybody and bringing them home. Come on.
Nobody left when he comes to the plate.
That's it. I mean, Iguchi said, no, not today. This is my show. He's a good ball player, that Tadahito Iguchi. Simply as that, a great acquisition, especially if he's getting on in front of this man strolling to the plate.
Jim Thome grew up in Illinois and grew up as a Chicago Cub fan. We talked to him about it before the game here yesterday.
If you grew up in Illinois, I think you're either, you know, you're definitely either a Cubs or Sox fan, but you know, I just think the Cub games were on TV more. That's really the only reason why we really filtered to the Cubs. But you know, it's. I told them today they better not wear any Cub hats. That's for sure.
If there's a more likable guy in the game of baseball today than Jim Thome, then I have not had the pleasure to meet him.
I think we had Ozzie Guillen make a statement. If you can find something bad to say about Jim Thome, there's something wrong with you.
Yep. I mean, he's one of those rare people in life, forget baseball, one of the rare people in life that it is true what Ozzie points out, is that anybody who's ever come in contact with this guy, you could go find every person that's ever met him or been around him for any length of time whatsoever, and they will have nothing but good things to say about him. He is an extraordinary guy. And in fact, here's what Ozzie was talking about in reference to Thome yesterday.
And you talk to anybody in baseball, I'm going to say anybody go to say anything bad about Jim Thome. If you ask me about me, people might say I hate that man or whatever, but by Jim Thome, nobody in baseball go to talk anything about this man, and what he does on the field is awesome. But when he do off the field, what people can see is better.
It's quite a statement for a guy who's closing in on 500 career home runs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You don't see that very often. Superstar caliber player that has nothing but accolades said about him. Because so many players, they get the big hit when they become so successful, and that's not been the case for Jim Thome. He's involved with the community. I mean, as the skipper Ozzie Guillen just pointed out, a lot of things he does that people don't even see.
And what a return indeed for Jim Thome. #1 in slugging percentage, home runs, and RBIs back in the American League. Hit a mile high and playable for Blanco. One away here in the home half of the 7th inning. Well, he talked about Jim Thome and where he ranks among the game's active players and career home runs. Well, that's a who's who there. You know about Barry Bonds? Ken Griffey Jr. Boy, where would he be were it not for all the injuries the last 4 years? He'd be probably right on the heels of Barry Bonds, Frank Thomas, Gary Sheffield, Jim Thome. You know, the great thing about that list, as Dusty's going to make a change, is outside of all the rumors around Barry Bonds, you know, Griffey, Frank Thomas, and Jim Thome. Never a word about those guys and steroid use. Good guys wear black. That was the team logo here for a long, long time on the south side, right?
Yeah, matter of fact, when I first joined this team back in '94, that was the slogan.
When they had the Big Hurt and Black Jack McDowell and that whole group.
Oh, yes, a lot of fun, that group. And so was that advertisement. As you see, the numbers are good numbers on Scott Williams this year out of that bullpen, huh?
Well, a one-time flamethrower when he came up with the Cincinnati Reds. That one shot into right center field, and nice. The running catch by Pierre out near the warning track. That ball hit very hard by Konerko, but it's allowed out.
Juan Pierre, you know, look at this jump. Last second had to make a little adjustment back, but because of that read and jump off of the bat, he put himself in a position to make that catch, and that is so important for a center fielder. Pierre, he's got makeup speed, but when you get jumps like that, it doesn't matter. You don't need it.
Pitch high to Jermaine Dye. Let's go behind the scenes, if you will, with Jermaine Dye. He grew up in Northern California, a big San Francisco Giants fan. His father played in the NBA with the Detroit Pistons and then injured his knee, which ended his career. And his father wound up being a city bus driver in the San Francisco area for many, many years. There's a fly ball in the center field, but his father would always find days of the week off to coach his son, Jermaine Dye. Quality player, quality upbringing. We begin the 8th inning, and Freddie Garcia still on the mound. I mean, Ozzie Guillen, you know, he comes from that old school, and you hear it referred to in so many different areas about baseball, but I mean, one of those areas is allowing your starting pitchers to pitch real deep in the game. Now, he's very blessed that he has a group of pitchers that like to do it and can do it, but he'll run him back out there. I mean, you know, Garcia's pitch count and not even 100 yet as we open the 8th inning.
What's your thoughts on that? What, I mean, how do you feel? Yeah, I mean,
but you got to have guys that can do it. I mean, you know, it's one thing to say, hey, yeah, I want to see my starter stay in there, you know, for 7, 8, 9 innings, complete what he started. You know, you hear all that. But, I mean, this is a special group here. Right.
And Ozzie, of course, has enhanced it by saying, I want certain type of pitchers here. And they've gone out and done it for him. That's one thing about he and Kenny Williams is, as a pair, they talk, they say what they want as a unit available to themselves, and guess what? Ozzie gets it. He gets a Javier Vasquez. He gets a Freddie Garcia, and he's built this team. Since he's joined this organization, Ozzie has told him, I want baseball players. Don't give me good athletes, give me baseball players. And baseball players, when they pitch, they want to go 9.
Off the end of the bat in a short left field and coming over to get it, Pasetnik. You know, we're talking about Jim Thome being one of the most likable guys in baseball. Well, Juan Pierre is right there with him.
Wasn't that refreshing what he just said?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he just flat out said, look, you know, the pitching's done its job well enough to basically give us a chance. But when you have guys like myself who are supposed to be a table setter and I don't get it done, you know what? That's my fault. I don't want to push the buck. I should get it going. And he is the kind of player, if you ask me, especially seeing that attitude of his, that if he gets on first base, he wants to steal second, steal third, and create a run. He's the kind of guy that can do it.
He is just such a delightful young man from Cajun country. Grew up in Louisiana. I'll never forget being at old Candlestick Park when Juan Pierre was playing for the Colorado Rockies and watching him as Willie Mays walked up to him and said, "Young man, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed watching you play the game." As Pierre is gone, strike 3 on a check swing, 2 away in the inning. And Juan Pierre later recalling that conversation and said, "I just can't believe that Willie Mays has any idea who I am."
You know, I love to hear stories like that, because here is somebody also telling you he understands the history of the game. And that's good to see. So many ball players actually do not even know the history of baseball. The great players like Willie Mays, and what an honor it is when they do come up and acknowledge you. Good for Juan Pierre.
Oh, he's a great kid. Juan is not lying about this offense and the way it has been since the final week of April. Not necessarily the day that Derek Lee went down, but in that same week. The Cubs started the year in grand style. They had 16 runs in the season opener against the Reds. They swept the Cardinals in a series at Wrigley Field. But look at the difference, averaging 2 runs per game in their last 20 games. To the shortstop, Uribe throws off balance, picked out of there by Konerko, and that'll end the inning. Garcia, 8 strong innings again. Fox Saturday Baseball is sponsored by Vanilla Mint Listerine, less intense, equally effective. By Bank of America, the easy way to help you save. And by Avis, where we try harder to make your trip better. Dan Ryan under construction. And so it might take you a little bit longer to get over here to the cell, as they call it. But when you get here, you're going to see a mighty good baseball team.
As a matter of fact, you got to see Freddie Garcia on top of his game this afternoon. Pitching coach Don Cooper going over and shaking hands. The indicator, he's done.
8 innings. 8 hits. No runs allowed by Garcia. And this will be, unless the Cubs can have a miracle comeback in the top of the 9th inning, his 7th consecutive win. The Cub closer just on to get a little work. And he has not been given many situations as Ryan Dempster to try and come in and close out games. And of course, getting back to what we were talking about a little while ago, as you look at the numbers on Garcia, we talked about how good he's been during the day going back to 1999. But when your team is going poorly, of course, in the middle of that terrible run, the closer will get a rare chance to close a game. And in Dempster's case, you blow it. You give up a 3-run home run to Mike Piazza in the game last Sunday to lose to San Diego.
Inactivity, no question. And the pressure situations. I mean, when you're put in it and you haven't been in it, no telling how you're going to respond, even though it's your responsibility to get it done. And another thing, you bring in closers generally in these situations, it falls along the lines of struggles. Well, they usually give up runs in these situations. Not many can go out there without that game being on the line and have a whole lot of success. It's just a strange oddity in baseball.
Well, what a pickup Dempster has turned out to be. A one-time All-Star with the Marlins. Injured his arm, missed an entire season, came back with the Reds as a starter. Came to the Cubs with the idea that he would be a starter, but then during spring training 2 years ago, Joe Borowski, their closer, was hurt. And so they decided, you know, we'll let Ryan Dempster try it. And then they had made that decision, and then literally a week later they had injuries in their rotation during spring training, so he went back into the rotation. Eventually found himself back in the bullpen and has been one of the better closers in the National League over about the last year and a half.
Boy, isn't it amazing, Tom, how difficult it is to find the right guy to close games out. The personality has to be there to handle that pressure, and obviously they found somebody in Dempster. Just not that easy to have somebody that's not already established as a closer step in and get it done.
0-2 pitch, and it's popped up. Cedeno squeezing it tightly. You know, both the Cubs and the White Sox do so many wonderful things in this community. The White Sox, in fact, are teaming up with MLB and Habitat for Humanity to build a house in partnership with a family who relocated to Illinois after Hurricane Katrina. All the great work Habitat for Humanity has done down there. The site is Armour Square Park, just north of U.S. Cellular Field. It'll be one of the first homes in a subdivision that will eventually house over 500 families. And back on May the 9th, a week and a half ago, the Konerkos, Przynskis, Posedniks, and Tomies were over at the construction site and meeting all the volunteer workers. Great stuff.
And some of those guys actually looked like they knew what they were doing with the hammer. Others stick to the day job they have.
Well, you think about where they're from now. And you got to believe the big Jim Thome knows how to handle it.
He was the one that had the best hammering technique, I must say. Just like hitting a baseball to him, no big deal.
Thome grew up in Peoria, Illinois. Went to his first big league game at Wrigley Field with his father. He said his family would take 2 or 3 trips this summer to Chicago to see the Cubs, and then they'd go down to St. Louis to see the Cubs play the Cardinals. One of the great rivalries in the National League.
Tom, I'm going to go down on a limb and say, now, I'm just going out there and say that your first big league game you saw was in Cincinnati.
No.
No.
No. Good guess. Very good guess.
All right,
no,
Houston.
Before my dad got that job down there, we were living in Virginia and drove down to Atlanta, Georgia. First big league game was 17 innings long. We begin the top of the 9th inning. White Sox won the series opener yesterday behind Mark Burley beating Greg Maddux, and lead today 7-0 as Matt Thornton, former #1 draft pick by the Seattle Mariners, takes over out of the White Sox bullpen.
Matt Thornton, one of those projects for pitching coach Don Cooper that seems to be paying off. Some guys have come in from other organizations, and he has the ability to turn them around.
1-2 to Todd Walker. Well, Thornton, a former highly thought of prospect, as you mentioned, DJ, as a starter in the Seattle organization. Last couple of years used exclusively as a reliever, and they made that deal for Joe Borchard with the final week of spring training.
Yes, it was one of those things where it was a win-win for both players.
There's a little giddy up on that fastball. 98 miles per hour on the radar gun. Mercy.
No effort. That's Thornton's forte.
Well, today's Chevrolet Player of the Game, Tadahito Iguchi. In recognition of his outstanding play, Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Chevy, an American revolution. First career Grand Slam, first career multi-home run game. A career high 6 runs batted in. And Taguchi, as we mentioned, with now 8 3-hit games this season. That's most by any player in the American League. Guy can play. Grounded in the hole, Uribe, a long throw, and safe at first. Perez able to leg it out.
Well, Juan Uribe with an extremely strong throwing arm from deep in the hole and accurate, but it's hard to get a lot on this with the momentum going towards the third base left field line, and that hop on that throw just allows Nefi Perez to hit the bag before it hit the glove.
Now Jock Jones fouled out of play. For our local viewers here in Chicago, we invite you to stay tuned for live post-game coverage with Corey McFerrin and Ron Coomer here on our Fox affiliate. They'll have extended coverage on today's game and the fight, and for everybody else, volleyball. That's a good-looking curveball there by Thornton. Strike 2. Well, they get this guy straightened out. Look out.
Well, I'm telling you, he has already gotten to a point. It happened quickly, the turnaround for him of throwing strikes. That was the concern.
Check swing, and Jones went around. Ball getting by Chris Widger and advancing on his second Perez. That'll be a wild pitch. And that's strike 3 to Jock Jones.
Well, it looked like Jock was just unable to stop that barrel of the bat. Went a little too far. He's got some strong wrists, but apparently that bat a little top heavy on him.
I'd like to thank our producer of today's game, Jeff Gowan, our director, John Moore, our associate director, Eric Billigmeyer, and our broadcast associate, Brian Biederman. Our technical producer from right here in Chicago, Craig Marlowe, and our technical director, Scott Daly. Senior producer of Fox Sports is Bill Brown. The executive producers are David Hill and Ed Gorin. Kicking off our 11th season of Major League Baseball on Fox. Hopefully it won't be our last. Commissioner Seelig, I hope you're watching. I mean, lives right up the road in Milwaukee, right?
Oh, that's exactly
Game's
right.
got to be on.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Seelig. 1-1 pitch. Swinging a foul ball back out of play, but we'll be with you every Saturday through the course of the regular season to the Division Series, both National and American League Championship Series, culminating with a World Series. And Ozzie Guillen's defending world champions, looking to add to the best record in all of baseball to begin 06. A breaking ball hit Ramirez. They want to know if he swung at the ball. That's the way a game ended last night in Pittsburgh. It hit him, and apparently he did not go around.
Well, the White Sox had a controversy very similar to that not too long ago. There's a check swing in Minnesota by Michael Kadire. He went completely around. Ball hit him in his back elbow, and it was called a no swing. He went to first base. Minnesota went on to score a whole bunch of runs. And in this particular incident, it appeared that Ramirez definitely did not go around.
So now Blanco with 2 on and 2 out. Just throw a fastball right by him at 98.
That is some smooth sailing heat, isn't it?
Boy, is it ever. Man. One to Blanco. Ground ball down to third. Creedy gobbles it up the short way, and that's that. Garcia and Thornton combine on a 9-hit shutout, and the White Sox in back-to-back games have beaten up on their crosstown rivals.